Today we're speaking with Diana Wu. Diana, you're a futurist, a speaker and advisor, and you're on a mission to encourage and empower individuals, business and boards to globally to master the capacities, build capacities for inspiring futures that matter. You're a former Financial Times executive, and you wrote a book, author of Future Proof, who is writing about reinventing work in an age of acceleration. You are a professor at the Columbia Business School and the University of Hong Kong for MBA programs in Asia. And your work, the things I saw for me are about the future of work, but also the future of human life in general, because you connect a lot of things. You're talking about balance, about treadmills, about self-respect and self-care, which are topics that resonate a lot with me as well. In one of your talks that I saw, you were talking about changing your life from running to running free. So when was the point in your life when you changed from running to running free?
It feels like about 5 minutes ago. I feel like it's more of a setting on the treadmill than it is necessarily getting off the treadmill. It seems now that in mid 2016, I did a TEDx talk called "Running. Are you running or running free?" And it was about getting off the corporate executive treadmill, which I'd been on for some time, and it was prompted by some years prior, my best friend committing suicide, and somebody that I'd sort of grown up with and gone along that pathway of, early 20 hubris and excelling and going abroad. And both of us were American, but living in different continents. And then hitting that wall where you go, okay, well, I have all these other dreams, but maybe I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'll just really focus on the corporate ladder. There was a lot of things that from my perspective, we put aside in order to focus on external measures of success when not hit, or that compromised some of the more important things that I realized, such as focusing on human connection, spending time with people that you love, your own health and well-being, mental health and well-being. And so that was really a wake-up call, and it made me realize that I had just been running on a treadmill, kind of faster and faster, without taking a breath to think where I was going, and also to think about the process, because, that's life, right? You get to the end of it and it's not like you get a prize. You just get to look back on your life and go, did I live it well? Did I appreciate the moments that were presented to me?
How was the process? Because you were very busy doing all kinds of things. So your days evolved around you with a lot of things to do. And I think many people are in that situation. So how do you step out of that? How long does it take? You wake up one morning and say, oh, today I'm going to do less, but then you still have all the agenda points. How do you step by step get out of running?
Yeah, it's a really good point. And when I wrote my book, Future Proof, Reinventing Work in an Age of Acceleration, the title itself, lends itself to that realization that everything is accelerating. Things are changing, but they're changing, at a faster and faster pace. And so being able to take that time out to say, okay, what's important to me? And then readjusting. First of all, I think that people are waking up to the idea that that small bit of reflection, be it, mindfulness or journaling or on a consistent basis, can be really useful. They're waking up to the conversations they might have with their friends, and making time for, a walk on a Sunday to just check in with somebody else who's going through something similar. I can say from interviewing over 100 people that some people took sabbaticals. They said, I just need to take a month away from my business. Even if they're entrepreneurs and they have their own business, or they're corporate people who have negotiated for, a month away or some time away, or at the time that I was in my executive role, we were like, okay, we have 8 weeks for maternity leave, but we should come back at 6 because because the boss is flying into town. And so I think that people have reoriented their priorities in a way that allows them to ask for that, a little bit more of that space. So I'm sure it takes different ways and different time for different people. I also started a community of senior executives who are hoping to go from success to significance. And so part of what happens is we have a structure and a kind of road to follow, but it commits people to taking that time, to thinking about what are my values? How am I expressing my values in my work and life? If I'm not, how might I change things, or what might I change to do that?
Two things you mentioned, I would like to ask. One is because basically it's about finding your own way of how to stepping out. There is not like a one size fits all, but everybody has to find their own way. Some people need to take a sabbatical, others need to connect with other people more to find out what they want. And I think what you say of finding out what your values are, because not all people do that either, is also a very good thing. But one point that I always find interesting is the journaling, because I think that writing is a powerful tool to kind of connect with yourself, even if you're not a professional writer. I think it's something to do. So is that something you were doing, or do you have experiences with journaling? What's a good point of starting to do that if people are planning to do it? Or kind of way of starting if you've never done it?
Well, I think that being able to have consistent practice, for me, when I left my corporate job, actually, I sort of left my corporate job, and I continued to have Financial Times as my client with one of the programs that I started when I was full-time employed by them. So when I first left, I thought, okay, how am I going to organize my time? I want to get certain things done by noon. And one of the things I want to do is sit down and write for 10 minutes, not that long. And it was, a sort of practice so that I could understand, what am I learning about myself from this time away? Because I considered my time away to be a sabbatical of sorts. So I would say, what are some things I'm grateful for, or that I'm learning in this process? What are 3 bullet points? And then I'd say, okay, what do I appreciate about myself and what I'm learning? And that was very helpful, because it allowed me to acknowledge some of the things that I was doing that I wasn't able to do when I was in my corporate job. I'm not saying that everybody had to do it in that way, but it was a way for me to look back, even when I look back on those journaling entries, and I will say, oh, wow, that was a time when I wasn't spending time with my kids, and I can see in that time that I spent a lot more time with them, that I spend a lot more time exercising, and I would say things like, oh, I really appreciate that I took an hour walk with a friend today, which I frankly never would have time to do when I was doing my executive role and flying around a lot.
How did people around you take your decision to change and to work less?
So some people felt like it was crazy, because I was in a job that had, great brand. I had been there a while. They would, the impression was they would never fire me, because it was a, safe pair of hands in Asia for a multinational. And so it was sort of walking away from a sure thing. And a lot of people thought that was stupid, especially in Asia, where there's a culture of, sometimes in some places, not so much of a culture of risk-taking. And other people would say to me, sort of whisper in the corridors, can you tell me what it's like on the other side? Because, they were like, can I do that? What if I did that? There was a lot of that.
On the light side.
Yeah, and I think that that's what inspired the book, is because I
Mm,
continued to teach senior executives that were approaching a part of their lives where they were thinking about board roles. And a lot of them were saying, there are a lot of senior execs that are out there going, they really don't want to be doing their jobs. Maybe they're bored, but they don't see what's next. And so I had so many conversations of people saying, look, I've been doing this, I've been successful at it. I'm 55, retirement age is, 55, 60, 65. I still have so many things I want to do, but I just don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do the 55 to 75 or 80. There
mm,
is no roadmap. Most people haven't really thought about working in those years. So it was a little bit of a clarion call for people to rethink how they might spend that time.
mm. And how is it today? I mean, we started the call and you said that there are still some treadmills around, because once you take the decision to change your life and work less or do more for yourself, doesn't mean it can stay like this all the time. So there might be setbacks. There might be times when you again have to kind of refocus yourself and say that's what that are my values and that's what I wanted to do. How is it for you today to still keep running free?
I guess I need to take the time to recalibrate because um, some of the things that I've done in the past have been the most important things in my life. So in my experience of going and starting my own company in a way that prioritized my flexibility, which I think is pretty popular right now, but happened to me before COVID. I was able to fly to the US every other month because my parents were ill. So, just prior to COVID, now they've passed away. And I feel like one of the most important decisions I ever made in my life was to be able to spend that time with them and be available in a way that was not compatible, maybe with not with my corporate job. And so, but now we're on to a new phase. And so, I remember last year, I think I worked more hours than I ever had, in prior, and thought, okay, this is just too much, right? So I need to make a balance between, pursuing interesting projects with interesting people for nice revenue, and the things that I said were important to me. So I guess that's the thing. The nice thing is that I have autonomy, a lot of autonomy. I have motivation, but I have to constantly tweak it because I can start to get like, bored or have to refresh my purpose. And I think that some of the other motivations and drivers are, for me, I feel like I'm constantly tweaking. So in that sense, I don't feel it's not an externally imposed treadmill. I feel like I now control my definition of success, but it's changing and I have a lot of responsibility to continue, tweaking it. Like now my kids are teenagers. In the next couple of years, it will change again, right? Because they need different things from me. And maybe, rather than the time I need to spend helping them as small children, maybe the time now I need to spend on my work as a role model for how positive work can be in one's life, which is very different. So always thinking about how that can change.
Great. Thanks a lot, Diana. Thank you.
You're welcome.